What's up guys, Phoenix here. This video is going to be another Deck Doctor video. I seem to have been kind of plowing through these as of lately, but I mean this one was really easy to just do and process out because, I mean, Geargia is a deck that I'm extremely familiar with. I've played it multiple times in the past and I'm very well aware of what the deck needs to do and what changes can be made to the deck in order to try to make it as competitive as possible in the current metagame of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game. But anyway, this deck was sent in by the YouTube username of MSTNegates. He frequently comments on my videos and he frequents my Twitch streams. And he asked me to tweak it and keep it stun oriented. So if I were building this deck from the ground up, I would definitely probably have something in it like Machinas and stuff like that to heighten its ceiling, to try and, play on a higher, axis of being, I guess you could say. But he specifically asked that it be kept more stun oriented because he's seen how I've done Geargia decks in the past. And I'm going to hold true to that as much as I can and, respect his wishes on keeping it stun-oriented. But there are going to be some changes that get made in order to just be better advantage yielding in terms of gameplay, as well as just overall basically slimming down the stun engine, but making it a lot more potent in how it can be operating. But anyway, basically, this is the deck list that was sent to me, and I made it very clear in the game video that I played that I wasn't a huge fan. Because of certain things and certain card choices that were made. And excuse me, while I mute this dumb-ass messenger because people all of a sudden want to message and text me after I start recording. The entire thing is silent for the past 2 hours, and now all of a sudden I get notified. So, notifications off for 1 hour. Broken. Alright, anyway, now that that's over, that little side distraction is over, there's a lot of just choices in this deck that don't quite really make sense. Also, the fact that the deck has 41 cards, that also just hurts the overall capabilities of your deck being able to do what you're going to be able to do. You can't attack for game with traps. I mean, except Geargia Gear, but Geargia Gear is not a trap in the conventional sense. So, things are going to be slimmed down, and ultimately, things are going to be given a more cohesive theme and stratagem. So, anyway, first thing that's going to happen is these rivalries are coming out. In terms of Floodgate, Gozen match right now is strictly better because it's just better against Monarchs. It's better against Monarchs. It's better against the Pendulum decks because there's a lot of things that actually just match types. The only thing that Rivalry is better against would be Cosmo, but even then Gozen doesn't really do anything there. But I mean, this deck, if you're trying to just beat one specific deck, this isn't the deck you're trying to play. This is definitely not it. Another card that's coming out is Macro. This card really isn't main deck worthy because other traps you can play are just better. And in terms of Floodgate, this doesn't do really much of anything against anything except Mermails. Every other deck in the format can play with this up. So that's not really what you're looking for in the form of a Floodgate. Anti-Spell is definitely the best one that was in here, and so we're keeping that as is. The next thing that's getting sliced out is this Glow-Up Bulb package. This Glow-Up Bulb Melee package is coming out. I don't know how you're playing. The only time you ever, I'm trying to word this in the way that makes sense. Nat Beast is only effective if you're going to make it turn 1. If you allow your opponent to set up a board, set up plays, and then you make Nat Beast, it's lost most of its effectiveness. So you have to be able to make Nat Beast turn 1, meaning make Melee, have Accelerator. That's so much. You literally have to open MK2 plus another MK2 or Geargiano plus Accelerator. That's just a 3-card combo that you have to open, and just doesn't really. It's not really worth, essentially. So it's just coming out these Nat Beast things. It's just not worth. It's not gonna happen. As much as you think that it was going to happen, it's not going to. Just to be completely honest with you. But anyway, cards that are going in. Even though I'm not doing any of the Machina stuff, because I mean I would definitely play it if I was playing this deck personally. But he wants it more stun oriented, and I can honestly understand that. We're still putting in an Ancient Gearbox because it is still just a free card, and that is something that you are going to want whenever you start factoring in cards like Twin Twister. This deck didn't have any outs to anything back row related. Dominion, March of the Monarchs, Vanity's Emptiness, none of it. This deck had no outs, and this still technically is a Stunish-based card against matchups that are Pendulum-based, because you can just use these to hit their scales. So there is that as well that comes into play, which kind of makes this even more worth to run. But Ancient Gearbox just constantly being a free card that just presents itself in your hand off of Gear Gigants and Gear searches and stuff like that. It just lets you get that extra card to allow you to keep up like your game plan if you're able to, use Twin Twister, stuff like that. We're not going to put any discard traps in the deck, like your Raigeki Break or Phoenix Wing, but they would have a place in the deck if you wanted to run them. Next thing that's getting cut is we're cutting Grand Horns. Honestly, Solemn Strike is 100% better. This card's not really that good. There's better options that are going to be put in here. The fact that like this is like a worse Solemn Strike, but it's also just not searchable or accessible, is definitely just an issue that I have with the deck itself. But anyway, those are getting swapped out for Bottomless and Time Space. Both of them are just as effective against a Pendulum Summon as Grand Horns would be, but these are searchable in the essence of your entire deck is a rank 4 deck. So you play Treptrix Rafflesia. So that solves that little issue. You just swap these out for these. You keep the same number of traps, but you also now just have access to them in the form of making a rank 4. And that gives you a way to search these cards, essentially, rather than having to rely on drawing Grandhorn. That's actually just very real. Another thing that's being changed is that I can tell that this person is very, very scared of Twin Twister. And I mean, that does have some merit, but still, Starlight Road, I don't see it being any more than a 2 of, because it just clumps. It's a card you don't really want to see in multiples. Exiton is banned, so I mean, that's not really a threat. And if you cut the Starlight Road to 2, that means you can justify cutting the Stardust to 1 in the extra deck and make up more room, free up more space. But continuing onward, making room for one other card in the main deck, I'm going to take out a Veiler, simply because there's a lot of effect negation in this deck in the form of Solemn Strikes and stuff like that. Veiler, honestly, it's not really that great right now at this point in the game. It's only really good if you're able to catch a Pendulum Sorcerer with it, but even then, like, it's not even that great because they can just still make a board with what they just Pendulum summoned. And the only place that this card really shines is against Idea. But even then, it's still like it's still better than any trap that I would consider running, strictly because it's a hand trap and it's a tuner, meaning that it's abusable with the other card that we are about to put in, which is Instant Fusion. Now, Instant Fusion and the Norden package might be something you might be against, but it's very, very worth in this deck, specifically because of the fact that you can Instant Fusion Norden into Rafflesia, making Instant Fusion essentially another trap card in the raw, like, scheme of things. The raw, like, unnecessary, like, let's think about how this can play out. You can turn Instant Fusion into a trap because of Rafflesia's existence. That's definitely something that does just exist and happen. Let me move these around so that it's not looking all dyslexic. Let's see, counter traps. For some reason, I always put counter traps at the end of my trap lineup. I do not know why. And then these will go there because these are all continuous floodgates. These are the cards you can access off Rafflesia, and then these are your counter traps. So as far as the main deck goes, I think I'm pretty happy with how this looks. I'm only leaving this in just because it's a degenerate card that can steal games. The only card I would swap this out for would be like Dark Hole or maybe Soul Charge. Those are the only cards I would consider putting in instead of this. Soul Charge is arguably better because this deck isn't playing any like Call of the Haunteds or anything like that to keep getting your armor back. But the issue is that like you still have to be drawing traps and doing stuff like that. But then again, you could Soul Charge and make Rafflesia. So that could be a form of a trap. I leave that up to your discretion. But honestly, I feel like it's fine being limited removal at this current point in time, just because that card is more likely to steal games than Soul Charge is, in my opinion. But anyway, extra deck wise, we've just generated room by cutting the Stardust and the Gnat Beasts. So there is that needs to be filled out. Rhapsody and Berserk is a very important card, specifically for Geargia, because you can make it and equip it to Geargia, and you can make Geargia 3,500, thus making this, an out to like Cosmos ships. If you already have a Dweller on board, great. If not, you can still just out the ships and like beat over them, and then you can just do whatever you're gonna do with Rhapsody. I mean, that doesn't really matter. nearly as much as you would think it does. And then the last card in the extra deck is going to be Daigusto Emerald. I'm always a fan of running Emerald in the Geargia deck because you literally just make all your Gigants, and then once like 2 of them at least are in the grave, you just Emerald them back, and you just make them again. Like, it just keeps your advantage turn rolling. There's even an argument for playing double Daigusto Emerald in this deck, but I mean, like, there's really no extra point in doing so. But Armory Arm is staying in because of, and Armory Arm and Stardust. Stardust is obviously staying in because of Starlight Road, but you can make it through Valor with Norden and like Geargianos. Same way you can make Armory Arm with summoning a Valor and having a Geargiano or a MK2 on the board, and you know, being able to equip that to Geargia, making Geargia bigger. The same kind of reason that Rhapsody's in here, but like this is actually just a bit more like relevant, but it's harder to achieve because, you know, you need the Valor for it, essentially. But yeah, this is the ultimate change that I'm making to the deck. Like I said, if I were building the deck from the ground up, I would probably be building it a bit differently. There would definitely be some like Machina cards in here, like maybe 2 Gear Frame, 2 Fortress, and then like just 2 less traps. But even then, it would still be kind of stunnish, but it would just be a lot lesser. But the deck's ceiling would be a bit higher overall, just because Fortress is such a good boss monster. Even in the presence of Cosmos, it's still just a good boss monster. Especially that it's like freely recurable through Ancient Gearbox. But as far as this goes, keeping it purely stun-based, this is the final conclusion that I've come to on just like what I would change around for the deck, and just keeping it in some form of just pure stun build, which is what, again, the person that sent the deck list in requested for me to do. So I'm going to play some games with this deck on in some ranked matches, and you know, just have those go up later today. So definitely keep an eye out for those when they go up if you want to see this deck in action. But other than that, as always guys, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the nonsense you usually do. If you like the video and you know people that might like my content, definitely share it around. Help the channel itself grow in any way that you think you might be able to. Links are in the description of my Facebook pages, my Twitch channel, as well as my Twitch donations link. If you are, you know, someone that wants to donate to me, you can do that there. If you want to follow my Twitch channel and be notified when I go on live streaming, you can do that. And if you want to add me as a friend on Facebook, you can definitely do that as well. And if you want to suggest a deck for me to do for these Deck Doctor series, or just a deck for me to play in general, you can send it to my Facebook fan page. All these links are in the description of this video, as well as every other video that I've done in the past 6 to 8 months. So there's no excuse for you not to be able to find them. But anyway, other than that, click on that if you have not. I'd greatly appreciate it. It helps me make money, and there's no reason to lie to you guys about that. If you have an ad block enabled, please disable it. It just helps me out more than I can ever stress, and more you'll ever know, and just motivates me to continue making content for you guys to enjoy. So it's ultimately just a win-win for pretty much everyone involved, me and you being the people involved, essentially. But that is all for this video. Stay tuned, like I said, for the games that will be coming out later today with this deck. If you want to see it in action, definitely don't miss those. But other than that, as always guys, take care.